But, you know, we live in quite a world. It's a macabre world of fantasy, more fantasy than reality. And all you have to do is create a form of dissociation. You dissociate people from true reality. And this is a technique that was well studied on the Far East and even in Buddhism. Intense interest by scientists over 100 years ago went into the study of Buddhism especially, because they found that disassociative techniques were used in the pupils or the students of Buddhism, where they could walk through incredible scenes, even if it was slaughter, and not be affected because nothing to them really was real. They already found this out in some forms of ardent Hinduism, but they were also taught that nothing was real. Everything was a thought or a mirror thought of Brahma. And so you could watch a whole tribe being slaughtered, and it wouldn't affect you because it was all illusions and dreams, basically. That's where we are almost today, because on the West, they decided to use entertainment. Massive, massive entertainment. All working together through magazines, radio, television, movies, and so on, novels, to create this dissociative state which we all live in today. For most people, as you go through life, nothing is really real. That's why at the top they can tell them amazing things that are going to affect them personally, but they don't think it will affect them personally. They must be talking about someone else, not me. I'm special. I live in my little cocoon here, and I go home at night and I watch television and I zonk out. And my favorite shows are always on. As long as my favorite shows are on, the world must be just hunky-dory. Simple as that. It's as simple as that. I saw this in the 70s and 80s in Britain, a time when the culmination of the deindustrialization process signed at the end of World War II by Britain's leaders into the United Nations and the US agreement, because that was part of the signature. They would actually deindustrialize the West, but mainly Britain. I saw it culminating in really the 60s, 70s, and 80s, with massive unemployment. Every day there was factories closing, year after year, week after week, and this was the normal. Suicide was higher in Britain than even Sweden. Sweden used to hold the records. And it was an apathetic feeling. I used to hate coming back to Britain to see what was happening to it. The welfare system was pushed to the maximum. The welfare offices themselves were all painted inside like battleship grey. It was admitted years later it was the most depressing colour, a neutral type colour, and that's why they all painted them as battleship grey. Massive psychology used even on the poor and the desperate. I saw that. I saw people, I cut one guy down who hung himself in the same street because he lost his job. That was the Great Britain back then. Well, guess what? It's coming to you. It's coming to America. In fact, it's already here. We're being kept afloat artificially, and they haven't given you a substitute to take over. We're back after the following messages. Hi folks, Alan Watt back, cutting through the matrix. And just giving a little bit of history of how everything that happened even in the 60s, 70s, and 80s into the 90s was planned. The deindustrializing of most countries in Europe, but mainly Britain. The massive fallout in society, it was terrible. Divorces galore, everybody starts divorcing when there's no money. The shame that everyone felt being on welfare, where they were treated like some sort of criminal, and yet that was encouraged. Margaret Thatcher, a great Maggie Thatcher, the Iron Lady, said she actually extended the opening times for bars, because at that time there used to be a morning time, 10 till 1 or 2, and then opened again at later on in the evening till about 11 at night. She extended it all day. The reason being, she said, it'll keep the unemployed youth off the streets where they could be protesting or rioting. So everything was managed, you see. As long as they gave them enough money for staying in the bars where things seemed less hopeless, they wouldn't be causing any problems as we went through that change. And The same things as say is to happen in the States. In the States, they knew there'd be much more trouble because of a different outlook on life. There's still memory, at least, of something that was supposed to be freedom, and therefore, for the last 20-odd years, they've been building up a massive internal army and many factions of it and divisions of it to deal with all the strife that they see coming down the pike. They go through the massive changes, and it's pretty well being implemented now. And it's all been done under this utter rubbish of "it's for your safety." When guys are walking around looking menacingly, dressed in black like executioners, and that's why they chose the black color, with machine guns and asking you to bend over, that is not for your safety. In every other age, that was called despotism and tyranny and terror, and that's the object of terrorizing the public. That's what that is. That's not called civilization, at least in my definition. Now, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing was the author of the European Constitution. And this is a quote from him. Now listen carefully, those that are harder thinking. It says, "Public opinion will be led to adopt, without knowing it, the proposals that we dare not present to them directly. All the earlier proposals will be in the new text, but will be hidden and disguised in some way." Right? That's the guy who authored the European Constitution. At least he was at the head of the committee that did it. Valéry Giscard d'Estaing. I'll read it again, because this is happening here too. This is the sort of arrogant boast they'll give once in a while. Knowing that most of the public have their minds off in some reality TV show. Public opinion will be led to adopt. Public opinion will be led to adopt, without knowing it, the proposals that we dare not present to them directly. All the earlier proposals will be in the new text, that will be hidden and disguised in some way. And that was put through in the last constitution that had been thrown out by the people of Europe. That's how arrogant these characters are. They know they can just sit back, reword something, tuck it away in some massive new bill, pass it through, and it's law. It's now legal. They have the legal rights to do whatever they wish, including killing you if need be. It's all quite legal. It's not bad being a member of the Tyrants Club. There's nothing really that's illegal for you to do, because you make sure that you write everything into law that you want to do. Now it is legal. And that's what they've done in the US, Canada, and across Europe and Scandinavia, and across the world. This big international club that runs the countries, all the countries, have passed the same laws to give themselves the rights, so that they're not accused of being criminals. The right to do whatever they wish with you, to spy on you, to listen into all your conversations, have all access to all your data, because you must be predictable. You could be a terrorist and you don't even know it yet. You could be a secret Muslim or a potential Muslim, and all that utter nonsense, utter rubbish and claptrap. As I say, when you see men, goons, dressed in black with machine guns, ordering you around, you better believe you're in big trouble. Now, Hollywood has been churning out movie after movie after movie since the Pentagon started funding them with millions and millions of dollars. They put out exciting movies to deal with terrorism. They've had more terrorist acts on celluloid than they have had in reality. Just like the propaganda movies they put out in World War II. Hollywood put so many war movies out in World War II, they fired more blanks than real bullets that were fired in World War II. That's how bad it was. But all these terrorist movies they're churning out now, always wrapped up in a good story to tell you that, and to condition you that here's the guys, here's the goon squad, the guys all look the same, just like the soldiers, the faceless soldiers in the Star Wars movies, running through the streets, banging down doors. That's all quite natural, because there's terrorists out there doing all sorts of things every day on celluloid in studios in Hollywood, but nowhere else. That's how you change reality and the perception of reality.